So we're going with a fun little video today, something light and fluffy. We're going to ponder a fun little possibility. Just like my previous video, this is an idea that I suggested in the theory livestream that I did, and I thought it'd be worth giving it its own video. So we know that some way somehow this place known as Quadradum is going to be relevant to the future of Kingdom Hearts, and I'm sure many of you already know by now that Quadradum is the Latin term for square, which has led to much speculation that we may be seeing square properties on the other side rather than Disney ones. If we have a location that's being named after Square, and if we are seeing some forms of fourth wall breaking and a bit of a meta narrative, is it possible that we could see Square Enix itself, perhaps just as an Easter egg, or maybe even in a way that might be a bit more involved? The main reason I'm thinking about this is really because of Shibuya. Now, when I refer to unreality in this video and in the title, I'm basically mostly referring to Shibuya and Shinjuku, because I'm not entirely sure how Quadradum links to the Shibuya that we've seen. As I've said before in my previous video and in other videos, I'm not entirely certain that Quadradum and Shibuya are exactly the same place in the way we think they are. The Shibuya we've seen could be an inverted version of Quadradum or a dream version or something like that, but basically I think that they're not exactly the same place, so I'm not gonna really be referring to Quadradum just because of that little ambiguity. So basically we're just thinking about Shibuya for this video, and the Shibuya that we've seen so far is pretty much identical to the Shibuya that's in real life, and of course thanks to the street sign that we see in the Viren Rex commercial, we know it's going by the same name, Shibuya. And Nomura has also confirmed that it is Shibuya, it's just not the real world Shibuya or the one from The World Ends With You, or at least so he claims. In this Shibuya that we've seen, we do obviously see locations that would be familiar, and there are real world buildings there, and of course we see places like the Shibuya Scramble. So what I'm wondering is if Square Enix's headquarters would be there too. I mean, it's basically in the general vicinity, and if all the other real world buildings could be there, would it be so far-fetched? We can see all the meta elements being brought in and all the little meta references going on, and in Shibuya specifically, it is already known to have quite a few references to Kingdom Hearts as well as Final Fantasy and even The World Ends With You. So is it really out of the realm of possibility that we could see even Square Enix itself being represented in some shape or form here, especially when you consider that we have seen the Square Enix logo on the Viren Rex covers? So that would strongly imply that in some shape or form, somewhere, somehow, Square Enix has some involvement with the game of Viren Rex, and maybe that may mean that in some capacity Square Enix as an entity does exist somewhere in some way. The Viren Rex game, from everything we've seen, is set in Tokyo, which features of course Shibuya and Shinjuku, which we have seen. So would it really be so crazy as to think that they might take that little connection there a little bit further? Would we be able to go and see the Square Enix building, and if so, would we be able to go inside it all? I think that would be hilarious. Imagine we could just find Nomura's office or something. I could easily see some funny little Easter eggs if we were able to do something like that, and some fun references or something. And to be honest, in a way this has kind of been done before. This isn't completely something out of the realm of possibility for Square to do with one of their games, because even all the way back in like Final Fantasy IV, you could actually go to the developer offices and the staff were actually in there, and you could talk with people like Nobu Uematsu, who was in the music room, because of course he's in the music room, you know, or the funny little fights you could have with some of the employees and stuff. Perhaps the references to Square Enix could be even more involved than just a mere reference. I know all my fellow Nier fans know exactly what I'm implying with this one, but let's not forget that the first time we really saw a fight like this with Yosuke Matsuda was back with Final Fantasy 15, when they showed that whole mystery disc demo thing that they showed during the Final Fantasy 15 premiere. I think that fight was probably like the prototype for what we ended up getting in Automata anyway, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us found that to be quite amusing, and maybe we could get a Nomura cameo or at least some sort of reference. It's not like it's not been done before in another game that's set in Shibuya that also had Nomura working on it, right? The World Ends With You, right? I will say though, given how empty everything looks in Shibuya, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see any of these people in person, but still, a reference in some form, like their name written down somewhere, or a little poster of them, or a billboard or something, that would be quite cool. And of course, the Shibuya that we've seen so far, whilst it is fairly detailed, it isn't exactly completed, so I wouldn't be surprised if they still add many new things in, or if they specifically left things out just for the purpose of being able to add them in later on. And of course, in the meantime, since Remind and until the next game, whenever we get to actually play in Shibuya properly, I'm sure they'll come up with different things that they want to put in there, and these types of little references and Easter eggs might be the sort of things that they just slip in there. We did see Riku in Shinjuku, and Square Enix's headquarters is in Shinjuku, so this kind of dream Tokyo that we've been seeing, whether that's actually Quadradum or not, I don't know, but that dream place that looks like Tokyo, I think it'd be quite feasible for them to put Square Enix's headquarters there. But it would be interesting if they didn't put Square Enix's headquarters there, because I'd have to wonder what they would put there instead, if anything. I'm sure they wouldn't just put a plain building. I mean, it's their headquarters. They're really gonna just leave it out like that? I don't think so. They'd have to do something funny. If this were to happen though, I'd personally not want it to be anything canon. I know we've got a lot of fourth wall breaking and meta narrative going on, and that's great, and I love all of that, but I don't want Square Enix to actually be involved in this to that extent personally. I don't believe any of the Square Enix related Easter eggs that they've had in their previous games have ever been canon before, so I wouldn't expect it to be here either. I do think they should put in some form of Easter eggs or references and just have a bit of fun with it. I mean, they're in Tokyo, you know what I mean? Or in other words,
is this the land of the gods?
I don't know why, but they seem to really enjoy putting their own characters into Tokyo at some point. But anyway, that's all I have to say on this, and like I said, it's just a short little video. Let me know what you guys think about this idea. Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's likely or not? Would you personally like to see something like this? And if so, what kind of Easter eggs or fun little ideas could you see them doing? I mean, Shibuya, just for the location that it is, there is a lot of possibilities and a lot of potential and a lot of different things that they could do with it that I think would be quite fun and quite interesting. And so I hope they do use that opportunity to do some little interesting references or little meta plays with it. And like I said, Shibuya in its current state already has quite a few references to Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts anyway, so it would seem to be the natural direction for them to just build off of that and go a little bit further with it in the final version of Shibuya. But anyway, like I said, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like, and of course, if you would like to see more videos like this, then subscribe and hit the bell button so you're notified when these videos are released. But whatever you choose to do, thank you very much for listening. My name is NextGenNovelist, and that's all I've got to say, and I'm out. Peace.